Well, guys, it is now time for my Week 5 picks of the 2024 NFL season. And of course, last week I went 10-6, which, yay, it's a win record finally after like 2 weeks of 8-8, but it's still not ideal. 75% is the best for me. And of course, here is the current regular season and playoff stands at the season ended today. In the AFC, it's the Chiefs with the bye, with Ravens at Texans, Colts at Steelers, and Jets at Bills. And the NFC, it's the Vikings with the bye, with Saints at Buccaneers, Falcons at Commanders, and Lions at Seahawks. And my Super Bowl prediction right now is the Bills over the Vikings. Alright, so now let's get to my Week 5 picks. Starting off with a big one in the NFC South with the division lead on the line, as it's the Buccaneers at the Falcons. Buccaneers won the last one. The Falcons haven't beaten them since 2023, and they haven't won at home since 2022. Whoever wins this will have the lead in the NFC South. So, of course, the Buccaneers spanked the Eagles. Finally had a good game all around after losing to the Broncos 2 weeks ago. Needed that victory and all that. Meanwhile, the Falcons, hard-fought game, even though Kirk didn't really play good, but they beat the Saints to stay off at 2-2, so they're holding on for dear life right now in the division. And they have a chance to take the lead right now. A free-on-way race right now between these two and the Saints. This could be an interesting game as both games actually were close. But I think I trust the Buccaneers more in this one. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Falcons get it. Alright, then of course we get to Sunday. Starting off with our first London game. Of course, not going to be able to watch because fucking ESPN subscription requirements and all that. But anyways, it's the Jets at the Vikings for the first time since 2022. As the Vikings won the last three, the Jets haven't beaten them since 2010, and they haven't won on the road since 2006, as the Vikings try to go 5-0 for the first time since 2016. So, of course, the Jets lost to the Broncos in an ugly game where they should have easily won that, but their offense couldn't do anything, and they missed the field goal. That was a terrible loss that they really did not need to have. That was a really bad opportunity. That was a bad time for a loss there. Meanwhile, the Vikings, at first, they destroyed the Packers and made Jordan Love, who came back, look horrible. But then they started to choke at the end, and they barely held on. So, that's a little bit of a concern right now, but they are undefeated still. It can go either way between these two. But I think right now, at the moment, I trust the Vikings in this moment. Maybe if the Jets played good against the Broncos, I probably would have picked them because their defense is really good. But right now, I'm going to pick the Vikings, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets get it. Alright, then we get to the Sunday 1 p.m. games, starting off with the Panthers at the Bears for the second year in a row. As the Bears won the last three, the Panthers haven't beaten them since 2014. They haven't ever won in Chicago. So the Panthers had a hard-fought game against the Bengals, but couldn't get it in the end. Meanwhile, the Bears beat the Rams in a close game. As, hey, Caleb Williams is starting to play a little bit better the last 2 weeks, but still needs to pick up the pace. Their Bears defense is good. The Panthers overall still up there, especially defensively, like one of the worst teams in the league. But the last 2 weeks, they've definitely played better when Bryce Young was benched. It could be a close game, but I think I'm going to pick the Bears still for this one. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Panthers get it. They have life now with Andy Dalton. Alright, then we get to a big AFC North matchup, as it's the Ravens at the Bengals. The Ravens won the last two. The Bengals haven't beaten them since 2022. As the Ravens completely destroyed the Bills. That was a huge needed victory for them, as they have one of the best offenses in the league, and their defense is starting to play a little bit better, as they really needed that to get back to 2-2. Meanwhile, the Bengals finally won a game. They beat the Panthers. Their defense looked a lot better on the stats. Offense still looked good, but still a lot of concerns, though, because they only beat them by 7 points. So, yeah, this game can go either way, and I might actually pick the upset, maybe. I'm going to pick the Bengals for this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens get it. So far, all these games, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes any other way. Alright, then we get to a big AFC matchup, as it's the Bills at the Texans for the first time since 2018. As the Bills won the last one, the Texans haven't beaten them since 2018, and the Bills haven't won in Houston since 2006. As the Bills got a humiliated loss against the Ravens, completely shut down and destroyed. That was completely unexpected. Meanwhile, the Texans, they barely beat the Jaguars, but they managed to get the victory at the end. But that win was just a close one. It shouldn't have been that close. So this, the Chiefs still lead the divisions, lead the conference, so they're going to still lead no matter what. But this could be number 2 seed on the line and playoff seed on the line. So this is a very important game for them too. but I'm going to pick the Bills for this one. All right, then it's the Colts at the Jaguars, as the Jaguars won the last 3. The Colts haven't beaten them since 2022, and they haven't won in Jacksonville, of course, since 2014, as the Jaguars try to avoid 0-5 for the first time since 2021. So the Colts, they spanked the Steelers early on. They barely held on to win. Unfortunately, Richardson got knocked out of the game early once again. But thankfully, unlike the Browns, because the Browns were stupid, the Colts have Flacco, and he did pretty good in his backup role. So they got the victory. Meanwhile, the Jaguars, of course, oh man, they had it against the Texans, but they choked at the end, as they are the last winless team right now going into this week, as trying to get their first win. But hey, they got the benefit. Hey, we have the Colts at home. We always beat them for like the last 10 years. The Colts can't ever beat the Jaguars on the road. Even though, still think the Colts are a better team and all that. So I have to keep that in mind too, as one thing that will probably make the difference is, I'm trying to look up right now, is if Richardson is playing or not. And so far, So far, nothing about if he's not able to play or not, so I'm not sure. But I mean, it probably wouldn't matter too much, because Flacco should be just as good enough for Richardson other than not running. So, yeah. The Colts are the better team, I think, but I have to go with, like, the history right now. I gotta pick the Jaguars until the Colts prove otherwise. Alright, then we get to the bottom dweller of the AFC, as it's the Dolphins at the Patriots. As the Dolphins won the last 2, the Patriots haven't beaten them since 2022. As the Dolphins lost to the Titans, as scoring-wise, they have the worst scoring offense in the league, but it's not even the worst offense on the field, because they have to play the Patriots, who got spanked by the 49ers. Maybe they should consider starting Drake May soon, and all that. So yeah, this is a battle between like 2 of the worst offenses in the league, and oh boy, who do you trust? As neither of them are really good. This might be a little odd, but I think I still might pick the Dolphins. And hey, at least they still have Waddle and Tyreek. They have some offensive potential, but it's probably going to go to Patriots still either way. And then it's the Browns at the Commanders for the first time since 2022. As the Browns won the last 2, the Commanders haven't beaten them since 2016. And the Browns... Actually, no. They actually won last time, 2022, so I removed that, because that was the last time the Browns beat the Commanders in Landover, but they did win last 2 years ago. So anyways, the Browns, hard-fought game, but couldn't beat the Raiders, as they have also one of the worst offenses in the league, even though Watson played okay last time out the last 2 weeks, but they haven't won. Meanwhile, the Commanders destroyed the Cardinals 42-14, as they have one of the best offenses in the league, as Jaden Daniels is playing really good once again, showing that he is the best rookie QB right now, as he is just dominating. And I'm going to pick the Commanders for this one. And then we get to the 4 p.m. games. It starts off with the Raiders at the Broncos, which is actually pretty big, because whoever wins will get the number 2 spot with the Chargers on their bye. As the Raiders won the last 8, the Broncos haven't beaten them since 2019. Raiders once again hanging in there. Not the best team, but they're hanging in there, although unfortunately Devontae Adams wants to be traded, so that'll definitely hurt if he is traded. Meanwhile, the Broncos beat the Jets, of course, as the Broncos have one of the best defenses in the league right now. Their offense is not looking good, though. They're winning thanks to their defense. And I think they're going to keep that trend going and beat the streak and beat the Raiders. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders get it. After all, they've won the last 8. And that's the Cardinals at the 49ers, as the 49ers won the last 4. The Cardinals haven't beaten them since 2022. As the Cardinals, it feels like last year, they had that strong start last year where they were actually being competitive before dying out. So far, that's how it feels like right now, too, at the moment. After they got throttled and destroyed by the Commanders. Meanwhile, the 49ers destroyed the Patriots, as they have one of the best offenses in the league, and their defense is still playing good. I think it will be the 49ers for this one. And then it's the Packers at the Rams for the first time since 2018, as the Packers won the last 3. The Rams haven't beaten them since 2018, and the Packers haven't won on the road since 2012. As the Packers, oh boy, Jordan Love comes back and he completely shits the bed at first. I don't care if he threw 4 touchdowns, he threw 3 picks, and the Vikings won in the end despite the massive comeback the Packers were making. Meanwhile, the Rams, of course, lost to the Bears, as they're not looking really good right now, as they have one of the worst defense in the league, and their offense is looking good. Packers have one of the best offenses in the league, despite statistically not looking as good otherwise. But yeah, I'm going to pick the Packers for this one. And then it's the Giants at the Seahawks for the first time since 2022. As the Seahawks won the last two, the Giants haven't beaten them since 2020. So the Giants lost a hard-fought game against the Cowboys. Offense looked okay, but they just couldn't get the touchdowns when they needed them. Meanwhile, the Seahawks lost their first game to the Lions, who finally beat them after like 3 years in a row of struggling. As Geno Smith, once again, not looking as good the last few weeks. He's not been looking that good, but they're still hanging in there. And I think they're going to keep that going, and I'm going to pick the Seahawks for this one. And then we get to Sunday night, a big outer conference matchup, as it's the Cowboys at the Steelers for the first time since 2016, as the Steelers won the last one. The Cowboys haven't beaten them since 2016, and the Steelers haven't won at home against them since 2008. So the Cowboys finally won a game, even though it wasn't the cleanest, as they beat the Giants to get to 2-2. Meanwhile, the Steelers suffered their first loss of the year to the Colts, even though offensively, Justin Fields, if I remember correctly, actually didn't play that bad. But they couldn't get the win in the end, as their defense really shit the bed when they really needed them to show up. You can't have allow those 27 points if you want to win with the Steelers. So, anyways, both teams need this win. Cowboys need to catch up with the Commanders and keep ahead of the Eagles. Steelers need this win to keep up with the Ravens and all that. In the end, I trust the Steelers defense more, so I'm going to pick the Steelers for this one. And then we get to Monday night, a big one still, as it's the Saints at the Chiefs for the first time since 2016, as the Chiefs won the last three. The Saints haven't beaten them since 2008, as the Chiefs try to go to 5-0 for the first time since 2018. So the Saints lost a close game to the Falcons, although they didn't play good either. They just blew it at the end, as they now lost 2 in a row after that really strong start. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, again, they're winning because of their defense. All 4 of their games were games they could have lost, and Mahomes has still not really played that good this year, but they're still find ways to win and all that, as they, along with the Vikings, are the only undefeated teams left. I'm still not very sold on the Chiefs, and I don't really trust them at the moment, but I don't trust the Saints after that good start, so I'm going to pick the Chiefs for this one. Alright, so those are my picks for Week 5. I cannot wait for Buccaneers and Falcons tonight. So my picks are the Buccaneers over the Falcons, the Vikings over the Jets, the Bears over the Panthers, the Bengals over the Ravens, the Bills over the Texans, the Jaguars over the Colts, the Dolphins over the Patriots, the Commanders over the Browns, the Broncos over the Raiders, the 49ers over the Cardinals, the Packers over the Rams, the Seahawks over the Giants, the Steelers over the Cowboys, and the Chiefs over the Saints. Alright guys, so see you all next time for Week 6.